LeBron James' dramatic announcement today has everybody talking. The biggest free agent on the market and the best player in the world is returning to Cleveland. The NBA's biggest superstar has now come full circle, 4 years after crushing the spirits of his hometown. For the Akron, Ohio-born James, many are calling this a homecoming for the ages. Brandon Robinson is a sports and entertainment staff writer at The Source magazine, and he joins us here in our New York studios to talk about this because it's all anybody can talk about. Yeah. First of all, are you surprised by this, and what do you think were the major factors driving this conclusion?
I wasn't surprised. It was one of the best-kept secrets in the NBA. Obviously, I'm around these guys on a daily basis. My sources were talking as far back as last summer about how much this was going to happen. And, you know, I think the biggest factor for LeBron and the Heat was the fact that they did lose to the San Antonio Spurs in the 2014 NBA Finals. And I think had they won, it would have probably been a different conversation.
Was this more about leaving Miami or about going back to Ohio?
Well, it's bigger than that. A guy from Northeast Ohio was drafted by them in the 2003 NBA draft. But Cleveland has a better talent on the floor. You have Kyrie Irving, their point guard that they just re-signed for 5 years, $95 million. You have Tristan Thompson. You have Andrew Wiggins. You have Deion Waiters and a new coach in David Blatt. You got a lot of new faces, but talent-wise, they're better on paper than Miami is currently.
Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of which, I want to get to that in just a second, and that is, can they build the team around him necessary for him to bring that championship to the Cavaliers? Before we get to that, though, let's talk about some of the things. You know, when he left, he did it in this big, grand, splashy way that was really offensive, almost personally offensive to Ohioans and Clevelanders particularly. He wrote in his announcement, when he made the announcement today, he said, my relationship with Northeast Ohio is bigger than basketball. I didn't realize that 4 years ago. I do now. Is that his version of an apology, a mea culpa?
I do. I think Ohio and its sports definitely have a huge bond. Obviously, Ohio State fans are pretty big, the Buckeye fans out there. But I also do think that at the time, Cleveland did not have a championship caliber team in 2010. He's in his prime. And he was looking to win a championship, and Cleveland now has the pieces to potentially win a championship. So I think there was an apology and there was an admittance that he did it wrong. He was very self-aggrandizing 4 years ago with the decision. I think he learned from that mistake, and I think mutually the state of Ohio as well as LeBron are trying to move on.
Does that fix it enough, or does he have to do a little more when he gets there? You know, more work in the community, more PR.
No, I think that he maintains a residence in Bath, Ohio, a suburb of Cleveland. And he's there every summer. So, I think that time will tell. I think winning cures all. And I think green money is the universal language between owner Dan Gilbert as well as LeBron James.
Yeah. You know, and speaking of which, of course, the owner, as you just mentioned, you know, wrote this scathing opening letter after he made his announcement. He talked about in his announcement that they had met and put that behind them. Might that creep into, because that relationship is an important one, don't you think?
I mean, it's an important relationship. You know, they also just removed that apology or remove that letter from their website a couple of days ago, compared him to Benedict Arnold, you know, calling him a turncoat. I think that was his passion, but rising up. But I think at the end of the day, it's a business. I think he let that upsetment get the better of him. And I mean, in the business, that's why when you have press releases, you say, we're pleased that, you know, they brought this to the table, this, that, and the third. Is Miami did, you know, ushering him out and saying thank you for the 4 years and the 2 championships.
What's the likelihood then with the team that they built around? And he mentioned a few of the key players in this announcement that they can pull it off in the next few years.
I think it's likely. I think LeBron and the Cavaliers have time to grow. He's 30 in December. Kyrie Irving is a rising star, NBA All-Star MVP this season at the All-Star game in New Orleans. I mean, Vegas predicts that they'll win. The Eastern Conference has been weak the last couple of years. Miami running it the last 4 years. My prediction on record is Cleveland and the Houston Rockets in this coming NBA Finals next summer.
I'm going to put you on the spot, and I'm all out of time, so it's got to be a short answer. But how much, barring injury or something that's unforeseen, how much more of a career do you think he has? How much time does he have?
Maybe 30. I could see him playing into his 40s.
You think so?
Yes, I do.
All right, Brandon Robinson, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure talking to you.
Yes, ma'am.